Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Rising Tide Leadership Podcast, where we simplify the complexities of your leadership journey. My name is Mo, and I'll be sitting in the host chair today. Today's guest is someone who's made his career out of helping people navigate the messy, confusing transition from college to professional. Jerry Goldstein is an attorney, entrepreneur, artist, mentor, and career coach who's helped thousands of students, young professionals, and even the older generations like myself learn the unwritten rules of work. He is currently leading and mentoring alumni professionals, developing initiatives at the Fordham University. He's built one of the country's most attractive mentoring communities, and is the author of Spilling the Career Tea. Man, I love that. That's what the younger generations are calling it today. Spilling the Career Tea, your guide to value, intent, credibility, and confidence. Jerry's work centers around helping people communicate their values, build confidence, and understand what employers expect, but rarely explain. Jerry, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your show and being here, and I'm excited to get going here.
Wonderful. Well, let's start a little bit with your story, your career journey. You have a fascinating journey as an attorney, entrepreneur, artist, all the stuff I said. And so what are some of the key moments in your life that shaped your work, and how did you get to where you are today?
Wow, that's a great question, and probably a whole show in and of itself. But, I went down this path not really entering college, not really knowing what I wanted to do. And my parents tried to push me in a couple of directions. And, I was told you can go to college, you can be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant. And I was thinking to myself, well, no, I want to be an artist. And my father said, yeah, you can do art on your own time. I'm not paying for art school. You'll never get a job doing that. So I said, okay, I guess I'll try, biology. I'll be pre-med. And I started as a pre-med student. And as soon as they asked me to dissect something, I was like, I'm out of here. But and then I went to accounting, and I thought to myself, I am bored to tears. This is just not for me. So I went into marketing, and even that, my parents kind of frowned upon it. And at the time, it was, I'm an older guy, right? So it wasn't what it is today. We didn't have the internet. There were 3 television networks. Marketing seemed like something that was so far out there, but I thought I could be creative and use my artistic background to do something great. And I sort of negotiated with my parents. Well, if I do this finance and marketing co-major, I'll go to law school, and then you'll get the lawyer you want, and I'll be able to do what I want. And that sort of, happened, and that's how I became a lawyer, but it really wasn't what I wanted. So I spent many years bouncing from thing to thing, trying to be creative, trying to fulfill that artist side of the brain. And one thing that always stood out was whatever I did, I became a leader in it. So it didn't really matter what I was doing. It was evident that people wanted to follow me, and that I had a strategy or some kind of framework that people would get behind me. And that's when I realized I'm developing leadership. So it wasn't necessarily the content of what I was doing, it was the way I was doing it.
Wow, I love that. I mean, to have that wherewithal to know that people want to follow you. I mean, that's influence, and gosh, I really love that. Is there a specific moment where you realize, hey, people are failing because like they lack talent? They're failing because nobody taught them, how the professional world works.
Yeah, I mean, part of my success were all the failures I had, and I experienced that myself. I mean, 100% it was learning through, failure. Today I help people thinking to myself, I wish somebody would have told me this. So let me tell as many people as I can. I didn't know how to write a resume when I got out of school. I didn't know how to search for a job. I didn't know what employers were looking for. I didn't know that they cared if I had initiative or I inspired my colleagues. I thought, I just get hired, I do whatever I can, and, see where it takes me from there.
Yeah, I think a lot of young people, even today, are on that same boat, Jerry. So You talk a lot about failures, and I'm all about failures. Michael Jordan said, "Hey, I'm only who I am today because of all the shots I've missed and all the things I've done wrong." And when I hear that, really the question that comes to me for a guy like you is, if you could go back and give your younger self a piece of advice before entering the workforce, I don't know, what would that be?
So I think I would have even started before that. Before entering college, I would have studied things that I was passionate about earlier, and I would have developed stronger skills that I could use within whatever I ended up doing, whether it was practicing law or being an artist, all of those things. I would have just done what I wanted to do rather than sort of figuring out what everybody else expected me to do or what they wanted me to do, because it never works out the way other people think it's going to work out. Times just change. There's different technologies, there's different skills that are needed today than when I was a kid. And I would have been just as successful, maybe even more, if I just took the path I wanted to take.
Yeah. Let's talk about your book a little bit. You have a framework called, is it called VICC? VICC?
Yes,
Yeah.
VICC.
Can you tell my audience a little bit about that? I love it. Value, intent, credibility, and confidence.
Right.
All things that I love, and I love to be taught and I love to teach. Walk us through, in a sentence or two, each of those pieces and tell us why those four pieces work and why they're so important for that framework.
Sure. So when you're a young professional, and Vic applies to all of us, right? Doesn't matter where you are in your career. But when you're a young professional, you're never told, okay, this is what employers are looking for. This is what's going to help you excel in your career. So what I tell most young people is you have to go into every conversation, every discussion, every role, knowing what you bring to that role. That's your unique value proposition. Don't go into it thinking, what am I going to get out of this? That will become apparent shortly. What you need to go into it thinking is, why would they want to be involved with me? What is my unique value proposition? What am I bringing to the table? That's the V. Then, when you're explaining that, you're actually creating a brand. Your brand is you and what your unique value proposition is. So while you're explaining that, you have to have intent. Why am I this brand? Why do I bring this value to the table? And you have to state it with specificity, examples, experience, and that gives you credibility. So you want to have intent and credibility while you're explaining what your value proposition is. And then simply discuss it with confidence. Don't be obnoxious. Don't be, a wise guy or gal, but say what you are, say who you are and why you have this unique value proposition, and understand how it's going to benefit a potential employer or partner, a customer. Be confident. Confidence really comes through in almost everything you do, and you'll fail, sure, but you have to have the confidence to, just bounce back and try it again. That's the Vic.
Yeah, I love it. And I mean, this is such a leadership lesson because so many people think that they need to fake it till they make it. But what I get from Vic is that real confidence comes from preparation, competence, consistency, believing in yourself. One of my favorite authors is Patrick Lencioni, and he says that, trust is built when people consistently do what they say they're going to do. And from your framework, I'm thinking to myself, I just need to lean in to what I do well. And I'm with you, Jerry. If young people especially would lean into what they do well, have confidence, and be a value add to a company, they're going to get way more out of it than if they go and thinking, gosh, what am I going to get out of this? So that actually leads me to the next piece of that, which is mentorship and networking and relationships. You've built one of the most active mentoring communities in higher education. So why is mentorship so important for people, especially early in their careers?
Yeah, I don't, especially early in your career, but I think it follows you throughout. I have mentors today that I refer to them all the time. When even if I know what I want to do or I know how I'm going to do it, I talk to a mentor just to make sure I'm not missing anything or I get valuable insight. And mentorship means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But especially for younger people, you don't know what you don't know. And you don't have confidence right off the bat when you don't know something. So you mentioned just a moment ago trust, right? Well, not only is it important for you to be confident in yourself, trust that others might have in you is confidence that they might have in you. So mentoring builds that confidence so that you can be out there and explain who you are to other people. And not only are you displaying it with confidence, you're building trust, which gives the outside trust in you and confidence in you. So mentoring is hugely important. Mentoring can come from relatives. It can come from people that you meet that are alumni or just life coaches. It's wildly important, and we do it. You may not even know it. My best days are when people send me a little note that said, "Hey, I just want you to know that I really appreciate your mentorship." And I think to
Wow.
myself, when did I mentor this person? I didn't know I was their mentor. But if you're always seeking to add value to someone else and you're selfless about it, you're acting as a mentor.
Yeah, I mean, which is really a testament, Jerry, to your ability to be a deeply relational person. Like all people who, men and women who are mentors, usually you don't even know it at first because people just start seeking your advice and your wisdom. So, why do you believe that relationships matter so much in the long term career success of a person?
Great question. Again, we could go all day on that, but let me just put it this way. Employers seek professionals who do more than just complete tasks, right? They're looking for people that show initiative, instill inspiration into their colleagues, or bring solutions to challenges. In order to do those three things effectively, you have to make relationships with your colleagues, your supervisors, the people you work with, even your vendors, right? No matter who you're talking to, you have a relationship with those people. You're going to be able to take a leadership role and it's going to become evident to other people you work with, and especially your employers and your supervisors, that you carry these skills that are valuable. So, one of the things you can do is let's talk about initiative, right? How do you show initiative? You take ownership of your tasks and projects. So, how do you take ownership of your tasks and projects? You talk to people, you create relationships that are genuine, authentic. And if there's a mistake made, you say, "Hey, we made a mistake. Let's change this. What do you suggest?" And you do it genuinely and effectively and authentically, then you're going to have to create relationships, whether you're trying to or you want to, you're doing it. And what you're also doing, which is huge, is developing strong communication skills. So those communication skills, who are you communicating to? You're not communicating to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not going to tell you, right? ChatGPT is not going to say, "I don't like the way you asked that question, so I'm not going to give you the answer." But your colleagues, your coworkers, people that want to follow you are going to follow you because you developed strong communication skills and they like what you're saying and the way you're saying it. That's all relationships.
Yeah. How has ChatGPT and other language models affected the way that we build relationships with people? Should we be afraid of it? Or is there a way that you have learned with the people, the men and women that you mentor and coach to help to let them see, hey, I can use these language models to help build my relationships with the people with whom I'm in contact?
Yeah, so I think it's great. I love artificial intelligence as a form of gathering data. I love it as a tool. I think it's something that everyone should embrace, but it can't replace human relationships. It doesn't even try to. And the fact that we're worried about that is it's not about the technology, it's about maybe how we're treating each other. right? So I think that I encourage young people to learn it and be the voice that creates the responses. For instance, you might be graduating from college and you might have a humanities major. And you know what? You would be a perfect prompt engineer to sort of train an AI machine how to answer questions or look at prompts and determine and see what the searcher is actually looking for and how you should answer that question. That's a humanistic approach where you're programming a machine to sort of understand what another human is looking for. Are there pitfalls? Is there danger? Yeah, but I remember when they used to say, "Oh, don't let your kids on the internet. Don't use Google." I don't know if you recall that, but
I do.
they really frowned upon it, and they're like, this is going to ruin the world. Nobody's going to be able to think for themselves anymore. And that didn't happen. I think it actually made people smarter. You just had more information at your fingertips. So I really believe that AI can be a very useful, a great tool. It can make us all more efficient and maybe have us have more downtime. But in that downtime, that's where you're creating more relationships. You should be able to spend more time with other human beings, enjoying life and the things that it has to offer because you're getting your tasks completed quicker, more efficiently, and you have more time to enjoy other people. I hope that
Yes.
makes sense. It was kind of long winded.
No, it does. I love it. That's great. Let's talk about, spilling the tea right here on the Rising Tide Leadership podcast to my YouTube audience and to my audio audience. Jerry, if you could give one leadership lesson to someone entering the workforce for the first time, what do they need to know?
You just have to go with the flow. Your first job is probably not going to be your career.
Yeah.
And it is a tough job market out there, but it doesn't mean that there are no jobs. It's a slower job market. There's a lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to be hired and you're not going to find a role. What it usually means is it's going to take longer. So you have to be confident once again and you have to tell your story in a manner where you're showcasing that Vic. I mean, Vic is the key. You go into every situation with the Vic and you stay focused and you go for what you know you want. Yeah, instead of 6 months, it might take 12 months, but you're going to end up in a place. And I guarantee you, in 20, 30 years, you're going to look back and say to yourself, I can't believe I was worried, like when I graduated from college, that I wasn't going to get a job. I can't believe where I am today. It's just, it
Yeah.
just happens. That's just the way it is.
Jerry, what does professionalism look like in 2026 compared to, like, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago?
Yeah, well, we're coming out of a pandemic where a lot of people in the workforce weren't really exposed to professionalism in person, right?
Yeah.
So that can
Right.
be a real challenge. But although it can be a challenge, it can also be a huge benefit. Speaking properly, being prepared, dressing nicely, you can't replace that. There's nobody that's ever going to say you're overdressed. And yeah, I tell students, hey, if they think you're overdressed, just tell them you're on your way to someplace better. You have to be,
I love it. Yeah.
yeah. But you can't, there's no such thing. Like you show up and you're the only one wearing a tie. Who cares? Don't be the person that shows up in sandals, ripped shorts, and, a t shirt with holes in it because that's not professional.
Right.
But yeah, be prepared. There's really nothing secretive about doing professional things. Speak clearly, be prepared. That's the biggest thing. Dress professionally, politeness, just all the things that, you should have been taught throughout growing up in school. Nothing changes.
Right.
In your heart of hearts, you know what being a professional is all about.
Yeah, I love that. Again, one of my favorite books is by a guy named Frank Betcher, How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling. And he always said, dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have. And that always stuck with me. And I thought to myself, man, yeah, I've showed up places where I was the only one wearing a tie or a coat and a tie. And, you just own it and say, all right, but I'm going to use that line. Oh, no, I'm on my way to someplace better.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it
great.
works every time. I got a
No,
better
that's
meeting in about a half hour.
I love it, man. I'm using it. So how can, speaking about these little things, Jerry, the way that you act, the way that you dress, et cetera, like how can young professionals stand out in a world where everyone has a degree, everyone's got LinkedIn, everyone's applying for the same job? So how does my audience, because I have a lot of young people that listen to my show, how do they stand out?
Well, I hate to beat a dead horse here, but it's the VICC, right? So, what's your unique value proposition? So, I talk to thousands of people, hundreds of students a year, and I'll say, what's your unique value proposition? And inevitably, you have a surprising number of folks that will say, I don't have one. I have, I don't know what it is. But I guarantee you, you have one. Everybody has one. It may be similar to what somebody else's is, but it's like a fingerprint. We all have them, but they're slightly different. And you just have to uncover what that is. So, some ways you can do that, talk to people that know you the best. A lot of times you'll be able to glean from loved ones or friends or people who you really trust, their favorite things about you. That's probably a big part of your unique value proposition.
Hmm.
Like the way you find joy in everything you do. I like the way you deconstruct every problem. I like the way you bring humor to a situation when it gets too serious. Whatever they like about you, start there and then you create your brand. I'll give you a quick example. My daughter, perfect example. She graduated from the University of Miami and I told her, okay, you're going out for your first job. What's your unique value proposition? She said, I don't have one. And I said, come on, come on. And it ended up being when I commit, I'm all in. And that was based on her being a cheerleader, an NCAA cheerleader, and her desire to never give up. So we worked through that. And I said, you know what I really love about you? You tried out for the cheer team. You were scared to death. You wanted to quit. But when I said, okay, quit, you don't have to do this, you said, yeah, forget it. And you ran to practice and you made the team. So I think, once you make a commitment, you will never give up until you have to, until you're told you didn't make it. So her mantra became, once I commit, I'm all in. And
Hmm.
she carries that with her today. She's about to be promoted at Price Waterhouse. She was hired right out of college. Just a great, confident, creating that brand and sticking with it. So, I don't think she would have come up with once I commit, I'm all in if it wasn't for my wife and myself saying, this is what we like about you.
Yeah. Man, I love that. Well, congratulations to your daughter. That's wonderful. And yeah, once you decide, hey, I'm going to do it, good things happen, right? What is it? Fortune favors the bold, and so kudos to her.
Right.
Jerry, you've worked with thousands of students, young professionals. What gives you hope for the next generation entering the workforce?
Wow, I have never lost hope. The people I speak with are genuinely motivated, they're inspiring, and they want to bring solutions to challenges. They may not have the experience to actually start doing that right away, but I notice all of the time strong worth ethic, strong desire to make a positive change in not only the workplace culture, but in the world. And that's very, very, motivating. It gives me hope. It gives me confidence. And I just think we're on a good path with many of these people. The thing I don't like, if I might digress a little bit, is you turn on the TV or you listen to, you look at social media, everyone's told negative things all the time. But this is a terrible job market. You're never going to get a job. You don't need to go to college. There's no return on investment. I mean, if we listen to things like that, just think of where we'd be as a society or where we'd be as a country. And you can't listen to that. You got to push the noise out. And my book also has some frameworks where it will help you make decisions. Like we have the solve method, right? Get the noise out. Make a decision based on what's real, not on what you're hearing on the evening news, not on what
Right.
people are telling you that never have had a real job, right? Get out there and figure it out. There's no such thing as a college experience that carries no value or doesn't give you the right return on investment. It's what you make out of it.
Hmm.
So yeah, that gives me hope because more and more people are trying to go to college. And I know it's not a perfect system, but it gives me hope when I meet, the incoming freshman class and they're really motivated and looking forward to having a successful career.
Hmm. Jerry, for the person listening today who feels behind, overwhelmed, uncertain about the future, what do you want to say?
You're not behind. You just need to translate your skills. You need to figure out what the job markets really look like. You need to just relax and tell your story. Get the VICC going. Once you've refined that, you have your brand, you have your resume, you know what your skills are, you know what you bring to the table. Get out there and you'll make a difference. I promise. And if you can't, you can always contact me and we'll help you work through it.
I love it. Jerry, where can my audience connect with you?
So we have a podcast called Spilling the Career Tea with my partner, Bill Fiss, former HR professional at Citicorp. We have that on YouTube at Spilling the Career Tea. We have a website, spillingthecareertea.com. You can contact us through that. Our social media handles are always at Spilling the Career Tea, and I'm at Fordham University if you want to look me up.
Jerry, this has been practical, encouraging, everything in between. So I think a lot of people listening today are going to realize, hey, I'm not behind. I just need somebody to help me translate the professional world. And that's what people like you do. So thank you for what you do for not just young people, but anybody who is having doubts or changes in career. The book is Spilling the Career Tea, your guide to value, intent, credibility, and confidence. Get it today. We'll put a link in the show notes. Check out Jerry's podcast, Spilling the Career Tea. And if you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with somebody else. And sign up for our newsletter. It's free. We give you all the good stuff. Until next time, Jerry, thank you so much for taking the time. Hope to have you on again.
Thank you so much. And I hope you'll join us on Spilling the Career Tea as a guest.
I would love to. We'll do that. Thanks, Jerry.
Okay. Have a great day. Thank you.
Yes, sir.